Okay, I've recorded a much longer video on VS Code extension and the version 2 that came out recently. I wanted to cover something that's kind of a special topic that not everyone's going to face, but can be a little tricky if you get there. So essentially what I want to show is, what if I have multiple projects, separate directories that I want to work with within the same Visual Studio Code workspace? This could be that you have a monorepo style where you've got multiple bundle files, each in their own sub-project, meaning subdirectory within your top-level root folder. And there's a couple options there. It could be you have multiple repositories all treated separately, each with their own Databricks.yaml at the root level, but you want to pull them all into the same Databricks workspace, in the same VS Code workspace, instead of having to have separate windows open. Okay, so let's start real quick with the monorepo just to clarify what might lead to this setup. If I were to open up a monorepo style like my data kickstart dabs is, I'm going to see a few things. So as I go to the extension, I get this option to open an existing project because there's multiple projects detected, or migrate current folder, which is going to just create a Databricks.yaml that's empty at the root level. And that would be sort of a stub Databricks.yaml that I could use, but it wouldn't really have all the resources that are in my sub projects. So the most likely way that you would choose to do this is say, because I've got multiple projects, in this case, simple projects, one example, and complex project is another. So complex has its own, simple project has its own Databricks.yaml also as we get into it. I could choose to say, open existing project. I will take my simple project, and that will set up simple project as the root level. I'll only see what's within that project within this window. And then I could go and open up my other project, my complex project, in its own window and do my normal setup. So from here, I can go and set things up. I've already got a bit of information saved with this sub project. Okay, so that's one option. Treat each of your sub projects as their separate window in VS Code, meaning a separate VS Code workspace for those that are familiar with that term. Now, what if you don't like that? Let me show you one of the options there. One of the options there, if you want to pull these all into the same session, same workspace, or maybe these folders really are separate, they're not even under a same parent, we could go ahead and have this workspace. Right now it's basically empty, and add folder to the workspace and find each of these individually. So I've got both simple and complex available. I'm going to pick one of them first. Let's start with simple. So when that opens up, it's going to either find information that's already been registered, which I kind of set up prior, or it's going to give me my normal prompt for how do I set up a new configuration here, right? So go through the normal configuration steps here, create a virtual environment if needed, get that all set up. And then this will work and you can run. It even knows about the bundle resources, all right? So what happens when I want to start to expand what I'm doing? So in this case, I've only got simple project at the top level. I'm going to add a folder to my workspace. In this case, I will go with complex project. Okay. And so now this has its own Databricks.yaml and its own set of code. As I jumped to my environment here, there's some things that you may notice as we go along. Okay. So right now, this is all configured with the virtual environment that was tied to my simple project. So let's go play around with what happens as I switch between these two. Let's start with just proving out that if I take a simple example file from my simple project, I can see my Databricks run command, and I can choose to run it with Databricks Connect. In this case, I've already set up my virtual environment. If not, you go through the normal setup steps. Okay, so that's worked. It connected to a running cluster and ran. Same concept. If I upload and run file, that's going to work as expected for that first simple project that I added. In this case, I do have a wheel being built in the background, just so you know, so it takes a little longer than my more simple new project examples in my other video. Okay, so that's completed. Now let's see where this can start to get tricky. As I jump over to my complex project, remember I added it as a separate folder, and I open up a different example that's pretty much the same code, just in a different location. I'm going to try to run this, and I don't see my Databricks prompt, okay? I can still try to make this happen. Let me show you one way to do that. If I do Control-Shift-P to get the command palette, I can look for Databricks commands. You may see that I've done a test run of this, so they show up as recently used. And let's say I do upload and run file for my complex example. So in this case, I get an error message. The error message is saying that I'm in a folder that doesn't match what it expected. All right. If I were to go and try and run this with Databricks Connect, I don't actually have the button to do it, but if I do run Python file, it will essentially attempt to run this code. It doesn't find a Spark session like the extensions enabling on the active folder, and so it just fails. If I switch this to use the full Databricks Connect capability where I've actually imported Databricks session and done some stuff with it, try running that, what we're going to see is a very long error that's essentially saying we have some kind of Spark Connect remote exception, invalid access token. If you go a little deeper, you may see some metadata path showing up in there. So what I want to show you is how you get around this. Essentially what we've got in the extension is the ability to switch which Active Directory we're using. So I went ahead and just refreshed something because I wasn't seeing it. It looks like it's all the way up above the target. Now I can see my active workspace folder up here. And from here I can go and choose simple project again, which I'm already on, or I can switch to complex project. This is going to basically re-authenticate with metadata that's in my complex project folder. So you may have to set this all up again for complex project, even though you already did simple project. Okay. Now that I'm here, I can go to my complex example file. Let's go ahead. Now that I've got the extension, I don't need all this stuff. I can get rid of that and save. And now I've got the Databricks run, and I can do that here. Let's make sure this works. Databricks Connect worked fine. Upload and run file will also work as expected. Okay, so both of those worked. If I go back to simple example, at some point I'm going to end up getting a similar type of error over on this side. Notice that my run command went away. So I basically lost my ability to run simple. The way I would get that back is just to switch back to simple project as my active folder. Okay. You can go ahead and try and do similar things to what I did. You should get the errors. If not, you'll get them, after a certain amount of time goes by. And so that's the main thing to know, is that if I add multiple folders to my workspace, any of them that are Databricks related will have and have their own bundle. You can switch between those active folders, and that's how you would use it. Okay, just a tip for anyone that wants to set it up that way and have multiple folders all together here. The final way that you could set this all up with a mono repo where they share a top level folder would be that you could just create a dummy bundle at the top level. And whenever you actually want to deploy your bundle resources, go back to using command line like we've been doing before the extension got upgraded. But I don't think that's the best experience. I think you're better off having these treated separately in one of the two ways I showed you in this video. Okay, that's that hopefully quick example of how we deal with this situation. Hopefully that helps, and look out for those kinds of errors and check on your active folder if you see that problem. Thanks. See you next time.